What's going on, people? Welcome back to another installation of pros and cons. United were back in action last night in this great competition, the Champions League, and having lost two of our first two games, effectively, we was bottom of the table with 0 points and absolutely desperate for a win. We was coming up against a side who had been relatively unlucky in their group. They went up against Galatasaray 2 goals. It went down to 10 men, ended up drawing that game, and then equal Bayern Munich went 1-0 up there, and then Bayern Munich ended up beating them. So for both teams, it was pretty significant and a very important fixture, a little bit cagey at the start. And after tributes were made to Sir Bobby Charlton at the start of the game, the atmosphere was absolutely cooking at Old Trafford, and we was ready to kick off. But everything that happened in between, we're going to discuss next. As always with pros and cons, you have your pros, positives, you have your cons, negative, and we always start off with the negatives to try end things a little bit more on a lighter note. There are a couple of, it's a bit more even this time. The past couple of ones I've done, it's been very negative and then a couple of positives, but I think it's almost 50-50 in this one. You could probably guess who I'm going to talk about, but let's start with the negatives first. Make sure you leave a like on the video for us, and let's jump into this together. Quick question, what is our best midfield? Honestly, what is our best midfield? Because if you look at the top four currently, right, you know week in, week out pretty much who you're going to get with some exceptions. You know, if you look at Spurs, Sarr, Basuma, Maddison. Arsenal recently, Jorginho, Ødegaard, Declan Rice. Yeah? Man City do chop and change every now and then, so you kind of understand that. But they have that kind of fluidity where, you know, they've got players that can just come in and do a job straight away. They're used to that, so that's a different situation. With Manchester United, we have chopped and changed so many times. We still haven't found that perfect balance yet. And when you bring in a player like Mason Mount for £55 million, who I believe is a good player, and he isn't fitting into the system, and you're starting to bench him now the past couple of games, then what was the point in buying him in the first place? We've gone with, like, I'm sure, as well as the centre-back partnerships, where we've had 6, 7 different changes. The midfield is like, you've had Amrabat, Bruno, Hannibal, Bruno, Mount, Casemiro, Bruno and Eriksen. Like, it's just changed so much from last season where we had a settled midfield with Eriksen, Casemiro and Bruno. But the issue is with that, Eriksen has his flaws defensively and physically. And Bruno Fernandes, for me, to start the season, I say it week in, week out, every single fucking week. He is flat in his performance. He's so flat. He doesn't seem to grab the game at all, and that is what you want from the captain. Whether it is the captain's armband or whatever, I don't know. I really, really don't know. I don't know if he's run down, but he has not been the Bruno that we know. He's just been pretty average for me. McTominay is a ghost. He just doesn't like to get on the ball, so he doesn't work in that position. Try playing him as a 10, doesn't really work either. He's not involved in the game. He may pop up with the odd goal on or whatever, but if you're going to use him like that, you might as well just bring him off the bench, in my opinion. I would be personally keen to see a midfield of Amrabat, Casemiro and Bruno. Call it Camera Brew. That's what I want to see going into the next game. I don't think he'll do it in the derby. I think maybe Mason Mount might come back in. He might push Bruno out wide. But I think if you do that, you have Casemiro and Amrabat in the double pivot, doing all the dirty work. Leave Bruno centrally, because we saw yesterday when he's closer to the striker, we'll start creating chances and we'll start scoring goals. So that's what we need to do. But all this experimenting and changing and chopping and changing that Ten Hag's doing, it's not working. It's really not working. In every single game almost in that midfield, we have been cut through like a knife through hot butter. So we really, really need to be careful, especially when you're coming up against a team like Man City at the weekend, because they will slice you open with precision. I hope Ten Hag finds it pretty soon, because we've got, like I said, the derby on the weekend, and then we've got tough games after that as well. So yeah, fingers crossed for that one. Our wingers are out of form. Marcus Rashford has gone back to the form he showed under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, not making the right decisions. Looks short of confidence. Doesn't look like he's enjoying his football at all. His first touch is off. His vision in critical positions is just non-existent. He has this tunnel vision, which Chivy alludes to all the time. Anthony's a one-trick pony who's is obvious to play against. You know exactly what he's going to do. Yeah, he works hard off the ball and provides a certain shape off the ball, which is why Ten Hag likes playing him so much. But is that really worth £85 million? For £85 million, I want a world-class player who's going to contribute significantly. And again, I hate referring to other teams, but look at the output that they have. Saka and Martinelli are hugely important for Arsenal. You know, whoever Liverpool decide to play on their wings, Salah, Diaz, even Nunes there sometimes, Jota, they all contribute. Anthony, I don't think Anthony's got a fucking assist or a goal. He's not got one assist or one goal so far this season. and we're nearly at the end of October. That is fucking shocking. So with that in mind, I would give Mason Mount, I would give Mason Mount a chance on the right-hand side, and I would put Garnacho on the left. He's not going to do it because he has favourites, and we get frustrated with it. But clearly, trying to play them back into form isn't working. So please, please, please make a change. Because this Anthony Hill that you're on, Eric Ten Hag, it may be the hill that you die on. Yet again, we scrape another win. Last night, we had to rely on Onana's brilliance to save a penalty in the dying seconds, as well as them hitting the woodwork and having some concrete chances and playing better football than us, especially in the first half. Against Sheffield, it was lacklustre. Dalot pulled us out of the shit with that wonder strike. Against Brentford, we scored 2 in the last 5 minutes. So they call it winning ugly, but that's the only way we're winning at the minute. Aside from the Palace game in the Cup, that is it. We are winning ugly in every single game, and it's only going to go so far before luck turns against us. I suppose that is a positive in itself. We're starting to get the rub of the green, but it won't last forever. And if you look at the fixtures we've just had, they've all been pretty light fixtures against teams near the bottom of the table. Even in the Champions League, Galatasaray and Copenhagen, they'd be in the bottom half probably in the Prem as well. So, yeah, we've got Man City coming up, as I alluded to before. We've got Newcastle in the Cup. I'm sure we've got Liverpool at Anfield at some point. Maybe that's in December. But, yeah, you can't be playing like that against these teams because they'll pull you apart. I don't know how many times we have to say this on this channel. Højlund needs service. He needs service. Provide him with the fucking ball, please. Because if you do not put petrol in the car, it doesn't go very far, does it? If you don't provide your striker with chances, you're not going to get the best out of him, and he's not going to score goals. It's as simple as that. I think he looks like an absolute gem when you look at his personality, his stature, his hold-up play, his pace, his composure, even his aerial threat. He can win a ball and knock it down if you want to go long as well, which you saw a couple of times yesterday. And it always helps when you're 20 years old. He's got room to grow, which is the scary thing, because he looks pretty good right now. But that becomes wasted talent when you do not provide him with the chances. Last night, he had a couple of half chances, which he missed, to be fair. I think the keeper made a great save on one of them. But I just keep thinking in my head, if he was in a settled environment right now, with players that were clicking around him, he'd be bagging goals for fun. I'm absolutely convinced of it. I don't want to use this example. I keep alluding to other teams, but it's hard not to have... They say comparison's a thief of joy, right? But if you're watching other teams now, they're playing nice football. It's hard to completely ignore. Arsenal need a prolific striker. I don't care what anyone says. Jesus and Nketiah aren't the one. If they would have brought Højlund in with Ødegaard, Saka and Martinelli around him, he'd be in the conversation with top scorers now in the league with Haaland, Son and a few others, definitely. Right, let's end with the positives then. This is my favourite bit. We've got the negative shit out of the way. Let's talk about the positives. Barry shuts his critics up. Come on, Barry Maguire. From having the captaincy stripped off him almost on his way to sign for West Ham. He was an outcast at Manchester United, and he's worked hard, kept his head down, and found his way back into the squad after we've hit an injury crisis, if we're being completely honest. And he's been injured himself. I think he missed a couple of games. But since he's come back into the team against Brentford, we won all 3 games. It's undeniable. I'm not saying that percentage stat that Sky put up is valid, but it's true. We have won all 3 games with him playing a massive part, especially last night, scoring the only goal of the game. And, he timed his run really, really well, headed it down into the net. Unbelievable pass from Christian Eriksen. The delivery was perfect. That's the kind of delivery, when I was speaking about Højlund before, that's the service he needs, and I think Eriksen helps with that significantly. Do I think he's Sunderland the next coming of Christ? Absolutely not. But it's hard to argue with his consistency in defending at the moment. He's been absolutely solid. Now, this could quickly turn disastrous because we've got Man City at the weekend, which I keep alluding to. I know it's repetitive. But it's a point because if he goes into that and we get completely destroyed and he makes a load of mistakes, we're back to square one. It's back to criticising him again. So I'm not flipping. I'm very measured in my praise, but I think he deserves it 100%. And hopefully he puts in a similar performance at the weekend because, again, we're going to need him. And I would start him and Varane in the back line 100%. Fair play to Harry Maguire. He's received absolute dog's abuse and he's come through the other side of it. He's weathered the storm from England fans and Man United fans and putting a string of good performances now. So fair play, Barry. Onana redemption. Absolutely buzzing for him because he's had a tough start to life at United, but he's pulled us out of the shit yesterday. If we take 1 point from that game in the end, it's such a dampening, result. It's such a negative atmosphere. And he saved us. He's absolutely saved us. But, the flip side of the coin is he made some pretty bad mistakes in the Bayern game and the Galatasaray game, which is the reason why we're in this situation. So, you know, it's 50-50. Just based on solely the performance last night, 4 out of 4 saves, penalty saved as well. And I think he saved with like 1.64 expected goals. I can't remember what the actual stat was. But yeah, he was good. He was really, really good. The criticism he was getting was warranted, of course. I completely understand that after the mistakes he's made. Even if you look at the games in the Premier League, the Brentford save was a bit dodgy, and the Nottingham Forest one where he falls on his backside was a little bit unorthodox as well. And you had people kind of sliding into De Gea's DMs saying, "Come back, De Gea, we need you, why do we ever get rid of him?" and blah, blah, blah. That penalty save will do him the world of the good, and I think he needs time to settle into the squad. I think De Gea had a similar rough patch when he first joined. He was getting beat on corners. He didn't look the best physically. It's a tough position. Gary Neville said it. It is the most scrutinised position, or one of the most scrutinised position in the world. And I'm hoping we could see that Onana in the Champions League final against Man City, because he was fantastic in that competition. There is some confusing elements with it though, because the reason why we brought him in was to help with the first phase build up, and building up from the back. And now we're going long with him. So it's like, was there any, what was the point? I know why he's going long, because the centre-backs we got aren't great at progressing the ball. They're not Alessandro or Shaw. But it is pretty confusing. It's like the same with the Mason Mount situation. Like, why have you bought him if you're just going to not, play them to the strengths? Strange one. We kept a clean sheet. Praise the Lord. It's nice to have a natural left-back back in the squad regular, albeit, it was only 60 minutes. But it was just looked more balanced. And I thought Dalot was pretty good throughout, was pretty solid, getting forward, getting back. Varane's aerial ability and in the box defending is high level, absolutely elite, and he's going to be mega important for this next. I'm just hoping he can stay fit and doesn't get on the treatment table, because we know Varane, he plays a couple of games, we get our hopes up, and then he's out of the squad for a few weeks. So it's hard to rely on him and have any consistency in that back line when you have an injury record like his. I've already touched on Barry and Onana. I thought them two are fantastic as well. But we need to go back to that solid defence we had last season, because that's the reason why we were successful. And the reason why we won the Cup, the reason why we got third in the Premier League, because we had the most clean sheets in the league. Once we sort that out, if we can get the attack clicking and the midfield balance sorted, that sounds like a lot, doesn't it, to be fair? They're the 3 key things that you need to sort, and we will start winning games. Believe it or not, that is our only 4th clean sheet from 13 games, and we conceded 7 goals in our first 2 Champions League games as well. So I will fucking take it. Look, I mentioned in the last pros and cons, if we can get a win against Copenhagen, we already had a win at the weekend against Sheffield, and then we can take some positive momentum going into that Manchester derby. They haven't got De Bruyne, Akanji's out, it's at Old Trafford, and if we win, we go 3 points behind City. Now, if that isn't a huge incentive there and a real chance to turn your season around, what's the point of being here? If you go and do that, if you get a massive win at the weekend, we're back in the mix, and you give yourself a chance to kind of salvage the season, really. And I think, when you look at derbies previously, we've been under the cosh before, we've been counted out, and we've won them. So, and City haven't been in amazing form. This might be my last words, but they haven't been in the stellar form that they've usually done. They've lost quite a few games in the past couple of weeks. So, I'm actually looking forward to it, and I think the team lineup news is going to be, or the team news, should I say, is going to be fascinating. Who he goes with? Does he stick with his favourites? Does he make some heavy changes? Who's he going to play in the midfield? Who's he going to play at the back? Some really, really strong, decisions to be made from Erik ten Hag and his coaching staff. And let's see what happens. Obviously, we'll have the match preview for that. And we'll be live with the pre-match build-up. We'll be live for the press conference as well. So do stay tuned. Make sure you turn on that notification bell so you do not miss a thing. That brings us to the end of the show. Let us know how you guys are feeling heading into this weekend. What changes you would make. What positives you take from the performance last night. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Leave a like on the video. And I'll see you in the next one.